Bible says, let every man be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to anger. I really like you guys' theme, the Royals. It's very fitting. I'd like to go to the King in prayer before I start, if you'd join me. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this group. Give them strength to endure whatever they're going through. Please empty me and myself. Come in and just tell somebody here what they need to hear. Please use me as a vessel. We love you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, thank you. Public speaking isn't really my favorite thing to do, but I felt it very important that I actually show up and share my story. I've waited to do this for a long, long time, and I finally got the right opportunity. So I was gonna do this free lib, kind of just as right off the top of my head, but last night I got to thinking there's too many things that I want to share. There's too many things that I want to say specifically to this group. So I'm gonna be looking at my notes to make sure I don't forget anything. Bear with me. This is gonna be a lot like, let's see, my fingerprint there. It's gonna loop back around. It's gonna go this way. It might go that way. So bear with me. I actually forgot something. That's funny. I wanted to teach you guys something. I already know not to do that. I already know not to do that. This is a perfect example. It's my wife Shasta. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for her. I love her. She's been my therapist, my friend, my battle buddy. I DJ'd weddings for a minute. So this is kind of it literally looked just like that, my setup did. So I kind of feel at home. Nerves are good. This is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I've done a lot of hard things. I run miles at a time, road marches with 100 pounds, carried machine gun, 12 miles, a lot of stuff. Somebody tell me to breathe at any given moment. Just shout breathe. And I tell you what, I am shaking like a leaf. And I'm not scared of it. You guys need to hear all this. So I'm gonna start with my little class here. Take your water bottle, relid it. Thumbs together. You literally can only yell for 2 minutes, full blast. Your voice gives out. So either way, might save your life. Teach a friend. Here's me in a nutshell. I'm pretty complex, pretty sensitive. I'm an extrovert. I think I have ADHD or ADD, whatever they call it these days. CPTSD, that's a new term for me. I actually think that's a real thing. Undiagnosed, but I'm pretty artistic, as you'll find out. I can't take credits for the shirts. I actually pawned that off on my full-blood brother that I was separated from as a child, so I never got to meet him until he was an adult. You'll see his picture here in a little bit. He's become one of my best friends, and God picked out the best brother, best friend for me. This is amazing. Why I named my thing fingerprints is God's fingerprints. And the dark represent the valleys, you know, and the light represents the mountaintops. And you know, it's like a roller coaster. This life is, and there's good times and bad times, and you need both to become who you are. I'm a big survivalist. I literally thought I was gonna have to run away. Well, I mean, I fantasized about it for years and years and years, and I thought, once I run out in the woods, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I gonna eat? How am I gonna stay warm? How am I gonna fend off the bugs? And all that stuff, and it really scared me. So I read a lot. I didn't have the internet at my disposal, and so I checked out books, and I had a lot of time on my hands, so I'd probably read about 300-page books a week and watch a lot of TV, black and white little TV that I had, and draw. I did lots of stuff. I napped. I was kind of locked in my room for about 6 years, and not under lock and key, but when you come out of your room, it's, what do you need? I need to go to the bathroom. Okay, go to the bathroom and get back in your room. After a while, you don't fight it. And we carry scars from these things, and I want to read kind of my thing about abuse. It says, abuse, you're hurting that person mentally, emotionally, and physically. I endured lots of those, actually all three of those, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And it never really goes away. You carry that stuff with you, and it's easy to be bitter. It's easy to be angry. I've found that forgiveness has been my thing. I really appreciate what you said, Daryl. That was very nice. I like that. So thanks for sharing. I actually would like a yarn doll. I would proudly display that. I'll give up a man card for that one. So. All right, it says that trauma leaves fingerprints on the victim, and these don't fade when the bruises do. And I can attest to that. Let me get started on my timeline. I was born here in Columbia. I have not been back since. This is the first time I've been back. I'm not sure why that is, but I think it's interesting, and it's kind of ironic that I come back to do this. So here we go. That's my No Slack unit right there. I gotta give a shout out to No Slack. Oops. All right, that's me on the left. It's my biological parents on the right. I thought I was a pretty cute little baby there on the right. And this is my biological dad. He's an interesting guy. I'll just kind of go through the timeline here. I was born to Steve Miller and Joanne Wakeman. And my first placement was when I was 3. And I guess I was there around about a year. And I actually can remember back that far. And I don't know how many of you guys have had any kinds of abuse, but it kind of sticks. It makes you remember things. And it's very vivid, some of it. It's actually started to fade, and that's a good thing. I can't recall like I could, because I've actually dealt with a lot of that stuff. I challenge you to deal with, the abuse, if anyone in here has had that. I found solace in my friends. My wife's been a huge help for me. She's kind of been my therapist, my friend. I didn't want her in the room when I was sharing this, because I thought maybe she might make me nervous, but she's actually kind of grounded me, so I'm glad that she. Placement was about a year after that, so I was 4 years old. I might have to jump around a little bit, but this is my biological mom, kind of growing up. I entered the foster care system because they had some problems, both my parents. They met in a military mental facility. My mom was schizophrenic with auditory hallucinations. she would hear things, and there was drug use, and that might have helped. There was a lot of abuse that runs in my family, I guess, and it's kind of a chain, and I'm trying to break that chain, and I challenge you to do the same. You can tell now on the left, that's my mom. I got the opportunity to meet her once, and I kind of describe it this way. I've been more excited about ice cream than what she was about meeting me. And I think that's due to her mental problems and some of the medications that she was on for so long, and maybe that's how she coped. But it wasn't quite the meeting that I wanted. This lady in the front is my grandmother, and she's the reason why I have a lot of these pictures. So I think, neither one of them are still living, but I appreciate her. My biological aunt is on the right, and my other aunt is on the top. I got the opportunity to meet them. The one on the right is very important to me, as well as the one on top. So you get to see why that's important, I guess, when I circle back around. So, my biological mom on the right. That's her high school graduation. She's a very pretty lady. She jumped out of a first or second story window, the picture on the left, and she broke her leg. I believe this is before I was born. She had a problem with, every time she got pregnant, she called it cancer. So I wasn't really necessarily wanted. She actually dropped my sister and I off at either a fire station or a hospital. It was a safe space. So she was trying to keep us out of my biological dad's care. That's him on the right. He's in a facility in that picture, but he was semi-famous for riding his unicycle or bike all over Springfield. Picture on the left kind of shows part of the problem. It's got a couple of ices. I'm pretty sure that's a six-pack. Dad in the background, mom on the right, me in the front. They had other problems. They would work the system. They both go to the VA, and they claim one thing or the other, and they get the specific drug that they were looking for, and they'd share it. It's my biological sister, Melody, on the right. We were always together, by the way, my sister and I. All 7 placements that I went to, she was with me. I always tried to look out for her. I love my sister. That's one of a few pictures that I have of my mom, me, and my sister. It wasn't long after this picture, I think, that we entered care. So. Some more pictures. This is my grandparents on the right, mom on the left. This is my first placement. I think it's safe to share their name. They were the close, and I don't remember them. I'm not sure why, but they said I had a problem with the male. I'm not gonna call him my dad because it wasn't that kind of thing, but me on the left, and then my sister, Melanie, on the right, and then that's their 2 children. I always kind of looked at myself and thought, man, I got big ears. There's a reason for that. It's so I can listen. If any of you do want to talk or introduce yourself, one of you already did, so I appreciate that. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Mac. Okay, Mac gave me a piece of yarn, so I'd like to get a few more, and maybe I'll show you a cool trick. Okay, this is my second foster home. I lived there from the time I was 4 until 9. These were my parents. That was mom and dad. and that was my foster brother on the left, Kirk. He's 9 years old. I really was not happy to be there that day because I did not like that suit. I had grown out of my three-piece little suit that I had, and that wasn't very Miami Vice. So I want to choose my words carefully on this one. Steve is still in my life, my foster dad, as well as my foster mom. And there was abuse that went on in that home, and I'll just kind of break it down like this. He was very short fuse. They actually lost a child prior to getting my sister and I. Their youngest son, died in a car crash. He was sleeping in the car, and they were rear-ended, and it kind of, I guess it hit him in the forehead really hard, and he didn't really wake up. So they had some things that they hadn't worked all the way through. They had a big hole in their life, and they had enough love in their heart to take us in, two of us, which is not easy. I don't know if you have any siblings in care or anything like that, but there was actually three of us. My brother was born in Kansas, so because of where you're born, that's where you go through the foster care system. I never got to meet him until later in life. It's my biological dad, sister, and I. I believe that's our last visit. We had about a month. I think it was maybe an hour a month. So didn't get a whole lot of time to see him. He was the only adult I knew who had long hair. He was the only adult I knew that didn't have a car. I was a pretty smart kid, and I had to grow up real quick. And they asked me at 7 years old, do you want to live with your biological dad, or would you like to kind of try foster care? And at 7, I knew foster care was a better option. He showed up to one of our visits on a bike. It was my birthday present. He had taken a bike and put it together and painted it and rode it to the visit. He wiped out on the way, and it kind of scuffed the paint. It was a gold bike. And I remember thinking, like, I appreciate the effort, but it kind of let me down to see him come riding up on my present. I was removed from this home on Valentine's Day, which was a pretty big deal for me. I worked really hard on my Valentine's Day box. I didn't get my Valentine's. My worker came and picked me up at school, right in the middle of right at the beginning of the party. So that was pretty traumatic, but like I said, that was mom and dad there. They taught me a lot, and I was saved in their home on my 5th birthday. And I'm not sure what any of your faith is, but it's the only reason I was able to make it through this stuff and not end up incarcerated. Talking to that guy right there. I was given this Bible, this very one, when I was 7 years old. It's a children's Bible. I believe it is an international children's Bible. And a couple placements from now, like I said, I was kind of locked in my room. I got really familiar with this. It's easy reading, and I wrote these words on my heart, like I said to do. And I didn't mean to memorize them, but I got very familiar with this book, and I challenge you to do the same if you can find it in yourself. This is the placement that I went to after I was removed on Valentine's Day. This was a temporary 2 or 3 day deal. they went to Walmart and got us some sweats. So my worker did, and that way I had something to wear for a couple of days. And it was a good little 3-day vacation from where I was. It was scary because I didn't know what the future held. I went to this family in Rogersville, and I actually took these pictures, had a camera, amateur photographer. Actually, I didn't take the one on the right, but that was my camera. That was their siblings there, or their children, and my sister's front left. Actually ran into this guy later. It was amazing. It was a fingerprint, and it really like made his day. Out of the 20-something kids that they had, I was the first that he'd actually been able to see again. So it was good for both of us. I learned a lot in that home. I was only there about a year, but around about 4th grade, I got chores, structure. I knew it was temporary though, and I was a little unsure of what was coming next. And next it was the Missouri Baptist Children's Home in Mount Vernon. I don't know if you're familiar, but there's a VA hospital in Mount Vernon. It's right across the street. I was one of the youngest boys, and my sister was one of the youngest girls. It was actually 2 different facilities on the same property. The only reason I share this picture is because the guy in the middle, if you can see him, college shirt, that was my first roommate. And my first day, he seemed like a nice guy. Well, the first night, they didn't tell me that he slept with his eyes open. So all night long, I see this guy staring at me. It was pretty, it stuck with me. Either way, this is actually a picture that was developed on top of another picture. So if you see me on the left, I believe it's like a birthday or something. Might have been my birthday. And then the kid on the right, he ended up body slamming me on the bed because I was throwing his underwear into a ceiling fan. And we were all laughing about it, flinging underwear all over the room, and he just lost it. Like, it was funny, and I guess it wasn't funny. After that, after about a year and a half of living at the children's home, we were pretty desperate for a home. We needed something. And while I was in the children's home, there were 2 different homes that, I'm not sure how to word this, but went kid shopping. And they were very good people, both of them, both homes I wanted to live in. The first home, they were country folks, didn't have a whole lot of money, and they really wanted to have us for Christmas. And they saved for a really long time. And they bought us a Nintendo, one of the first ones. And it was kind of a big deal. So Christmas morning, we opened presents. Presents kind of went pretty quick, because they spent all their money on a Nintendo, and my sister kind of says, "Is that it?" And it broke that lady's heart, and I saw and watched it happen, and I just kicked, in my head. I was just like, "Oh, come on, Melody, you can better than this. This is our future here." Wasn't long after that, they kind of backed out. They didn't decide to take us. That was a pretty deep blow. Carried a lot of resentment towards my sister on that for a long time. The next parents, they were wealthy. They were both in some kind of computer industry, and both had nice cars, and they had us over quite a few times, and we were really thinking this was going to be our forever home. They had basically made our rooms up to what we wanted. So I was into fish at the time. They bought an aquarium, had it stocked with fish, turquoise bed with fish all over. I walked in the room and I was blown away. My sister, I think she was into carousels at that time. Her room is done up with carousels. They tell us to take a nap on one of our visits. I wake up to my sister and the lady yelling at each other. I'm like, what is going on? My sister had gotten up and was 4 or 5 years old probably, opening drawers and just kind of checking things out. It didn't go over so well, and that's when they decided they weren't gonna pursue having us. So by the time this family came around, we were really desperate. I would have taken anything at that point. And these people probably left the biggest mark on me. And I'm not here to throw them in the mud, so that's why I blacked out their faces. I've forgiven them, but I lived with them from, I think it was 6th grade until the end of my junior year, the summer of my junior year. They were business owners. They had a couple different businesses, and they would kind of use me for work, which I was eager to please, and they got me out of my room. I don't know if any of you have ever kind of had to spend a lot of time, kept under, like I said, not lock and key, but if you've ever had to, be stuck anywhere for a long time, you go in here a lot. You learn yourself, and I learned all the weird body tricks, and taught myself how to gleek, whistle. And I worked out in my room. I read. I drew. I had lots of different stuff that I did. I was picked on by my foster brother there. He's a year older than me, but we technically were in the same grade. So he was their blood. He was their blood son. And they kind of spoiled him, if you will. And I'm not gonna call him a brat, but at the time maybe. And he would do things, and it was always my fault. And they own a sign business, maybe an artistic, kind of helped. When I would go to work with them, anytime I did, my sister was still stuck in her room. She didn't have a window. She had a really small room. It was like a little cave. And my sister had some behavioral issues, and who couldn't blame her? But they would put sleigh bells around the door handle. So anytime that she came out of her room, they would get a warning. And I don't like sleigh bells to this day. I love Christmas, but not sleigh bells. And you'll find that some of those things that my wife calls them trauma triggers, they just kind of take you right back to maybe where you were. After a while, that goes away, and you can deal with it, and you can like Valentine's Day again. You find a reason to like these things. Sleigh bells don't bother me anymore. Anyway, there's me painting a sign. These are a couple friends. They were I don't have the permission to share their names or their faces, but I wanted to give them a mention. They were my therapists. They were really good friends. The one in the front right, she helped me get my first job, which is where everything changed for me. I got to see the outside world and be free for the first time ever. And it's an amazing feeling to make your own money, to be able to afford your own clothes, and it was a big deal. The other girl, she's really talented in art. She took it and she ran with it. I believe it's Will. She's a graphic artist. She's super talented. The girl in the front right, she actually came and got me from that home when I decided to leave. I took with me 2 big black trash bags full of clothes, and that's it. I left my weight set, my coin collection, my books, my TV, anything. I just left it all behind. Start over. And So I really appreciate her a lot. It took a lot of guts for someone in high school to come and get me like that. So here they are again. I feel like they didn't feed me quite right. If you look at the picture on the right, pretty skinny. I'm not a big guy anyway, but I never was. Either way, when I look at that picture, it kind of gives me chills. And we basically, my sister and I would eat in our rooms, and they would, eat whatever they wanted outside the room together. This one was not physical at all. It was emotional, psychological abuse. And it's hard to prove that. It's hard to, sometimes being abused, you kind of, I think it's called Munchausen syndrome. I might be wrong with that, but you love your abuser and you kind of forgive them, and that's kind of what happened. My sister would go to school quite a bit, and she would share what was going on at home. And I didn't share because they didn't ask me. They didn't feel the need to verify her story. So they would call these people and say, hey, she's doing it again. She's running your name in the mud. They were Christians. They were real active in the church. So I'm kind of an unlikely Christian. I was, abused by Christians, but I could no longer live in that town afterwards. I had to move away because running into them, even though I'd forgiven them, I still had issues that I had to work out. So this picture on the left was taken after my sister was removed. And how that ended up happening was our school counselor had called me to her office, and my sister had kind of disclosed what had happened again. I thought, oh, here we go again. I didn't disclose because of the way they would treat my sister. And I told this lady, I'm not going to mention her name, I will tell you the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I won't embellish any stories, and I'll probably forget stuff, but I'll tell you some of the highlights. So I told her what was going on, and before I did, I said, you have to promise me, if you think it's abuse, then you have to do something about it today. She promised me that she would. So she was it was a big pivotal moment. So I really appreciate her. I'm gonna go ahead and share her name. It's Miss Wallen Merrill. Like I said, I talked to a couple of the workers last night sitting around eating, and they were wondering why I didn't disclose, why I didn't tell these things. And there were lots of different reasons. Guilt. I didn't think anyone would believe me. You got pillars of the community you stand up against. So I didn't have any evidence. I didn't have any recordings, no pictures, no bruises, none of that. So I didn't think anyone would believe me. But she did. She believed us, and I appreciate that. The juvenile office didn't want to remove me from that home because I was almost 17. As you guys probably know, in the state of Missouri, 17, you're kind of free to go. You can do what you want at 17. And you can't start a phone, you can't join the military without parents' consent, you can't get an apartment, you can't do anything at 17. So I had a year of limbo, and that was a really scary thing. They actually, they were nice to me after my sister left. And I started to feel really guilty that, here I am with these folks. Well, when I left, I put $60 on the refrigerator. This will tell you where I was at that time. they just bought school clothes. And there was 3 pairs of jeans, and I know they gave $20 for, and that was what that $60 was for. And I left a note saying, you know, this is the money for the jeans. I didn't want the cops to come and get me because they accused me of stealing those jeans. I didn't understand how police worked or none of that. And I find it funny now because I'm 41, so that was a long time ago, it seems like. It feels like it happened to somebody else. And I think that's how I had to deal with it. There's some pictures of my sister. That was while we were in that home, and this is way later. So for that year, like I said, I'm gonna have to circle back a little bit, but for that year, my new foster parents, my sister was placed with them, and she was with them a few months, and they learned of me, they wanted to meet me, and they thought it was important that I get to see my sister. So they would come when I worked at the grocery store and just kind of have lunch, let my sister and I and them have lunch together. And one day they approached me and said, do you want to come live with us? You know, won't be on paper, you know, we'll adopt you. You will not be any financial burden. And I said, where do I sign? So that's when I grabbed the bag and took off. At this moment, I love this picture because not only does it mark the day, it's about 100 years behind if you look close, but I started working out in my room. I was really big into bodybuilding. I know you can't tell now, but I was really big into bodybuilding because I wanted to be able to stand up to him. He outweighed me quite a bit. He's always taller than me. Well, I'm actually taller than him in this picture. And I got to wrestle in high school. He went to lay hands on me and I grabbed his wrist. And the look on his face when I grabbed his wrist, I will never forget it. It was the best feeling ever. He couldn't do anything. It was a look of panic. Like I said, I'm a little worried about what I'm sharing here because I don't want to get back to those folks. At the same time, I intend on putting this on YouTube. So this will be my first YouTube video, hopefully. After that, I'd like to share survival tips, maybe have my own channel, see how it goes. I'm usually about 10 years after everybody else on everything. I'm not a big techie, I don't like technology. I was not gonna do this, either way. There's a couple snapshots, that's some of the photos that I have of myself, showing the progression of me, I guess. I think the one on the top left, 4th grade, and then bottom right, I believe that's my junior year, I believe. The 2 bottom, if you notice, I'm wearing a Massimo. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Massimo, but it was a blurry shirt. So when you look at them, it had lots of little dots, and it would almost make you dizzy looking at these shirts. But that's what I was into, and I was able to buy those shirts because I had a job. And it just gives you a sense of pride when you dress nice. So left is my biological grandfather. Middle is my biological dad. He served in the Army for 2 years. Every problem that he had in life came from those 2 years in the Army because he wanted to work the VA system. That's me on the right. Handsome fellow there without all the junk on his face. I was infantry, so I got to wear a blue cord. If you're not familiar, I'm the guy that jumped out of helicopters to kill people. I originally wanted to join the Navy to jump out of helicopters to save people. But I wanted to become a badass, use my language. I wanted to be tough. I didn't want anyone to ever be able to hurt me ever again. So, couldn't stop me from joining the Army. I joined when I was 17, the late enlistment program. If any of you guys, raise your hands if you've thought of military service at all. Anybody? Right on. You can shout if you would. Shout what branch? Right on. Did I hear same? Right on. If that's the way if that's the direction you want to go forth and conquer. It's not as hard as what everybody says. If you want, I'd be glad to talk to you about it. Military was one of the hardest things I ever did. Like I said before, I'm an extrovert. I'm creative, and I got ADHD. You give me an order, I can see 10 different ways to do that. So it was very difficult for me. It stuck out. I was a whipping boy. I don't know if you know what a whipping boy is, but I kind of took a lot of ribbing. Got made fun of a lot, did a lot of push-ups. Got me in the best shape of my life, though. I got a 340 out of the 300 score. So every push-up I did, every sit-up I did, and every few seconds of my run time were bonus points. I ran 2 miles in 12:21. I did 90 push-ups in 2 minutes. I did 89 sit-ups in 2 minutes as well. I was really proud of that. They told me if I got a 400 score, I could do PT, physical exercise, by myself, and that's what I wanted to do. So, I'm not sure, I guess I've basically done the timeline. What was really important to me were friends. Friends were really important because my friends were my family. These guys right here would listen to me, didn't question me, and they kept their mouth shut. They kept my secrets, and I could divulge anything to these guys. So I really owe a lot to these people, and I challenge you to make good friendships. That's something I'm just now learning how to do. Me being social, I make friends easy. I usually walk up to strangers and we're friends in a minute or two. And I love it. It's like one of my favorite things. And had I not had the abuse, I don't know if I'd be able to do that. I've got a quote here that I believe it's Mel Gibson. It said, "Sometimes you don't have a choice, but you do have a choice on how you react to it." So I didn't have a choice, but I did have a choice on how I reacted to it. And I chose to not let it break me. I chose to let it shape me. Shaping me, I wouldn't go back and change any of that because it made me who I am today. And I like who I am today. I'm comfortable in my own skin for once. And I never was. I was always self-conscious, big ears, and I was 104 pounds my freshman year. I was actually worried I would be shoved in a locker because I would fit. When I graduated high school, I was 140 pounds. Still kind of small, but that's a big deal. I gained 15 pounds in basic training. When I got to my unit, I gained another 15. So I got up to 170, which it's amazing what happens when you eat and exercise. It's another picture. I'm starting to get some confidence, dealing with some of the issues. And I graduated with the 4 amigos. I'm still friends with these guys. I just saw them not all that long ago. The one on the left, he was a cop. The guy second right, he joined the Marine infantry when I joined the Army infantry. So we had that together. And then the guy right next to him leaning on, he was in the Air Force. We all kind of made up our mind we were going to do that. By the time of the Columbine shootings, we wanted to do something, and that's kind of what we went on to do. This is my foster parents today. It's David and Mary Livelo. They've done well for themselves. David started a pallet business and couldn't find a good nail to repair his pallets, so he started making nails. So that's how he was able to come up, if you will. My mom, Mary, she's an English teacher, and I never was able to call them mom and dad. And they told me that you don't have to call us mom and dad if you don't want to. And I I think it was just a couple weeks ago, I was able to call them mom and dad. So I don't know what you guys' situation is, but they don't have to be your biological parents to call them mom and dad. Sometimes you get to pick your own family, which might be better than the family that you're blood related to. As far as family, my foster brother's on the far left, his wife next to him. That's my sister and I, Mary and David. Mom and dad, Mary and David. So I just called them Mary and David. My foster sister Marsha on the left, and then my foster brother Jeff on the right, and that's my biological sister Melody next to me. That was a vacation that we went to. I believe that's Wyoming. It was a snowmobile trip. It was awesome. It was just kind of a neat experience, and I challenge you to go there. Elk is my favorite kind of meat that I've ever tried in my life. This picture was the first time that I got to see my biological dad. A lot of people didn't understand why I would go and meet my biological father again. And I really couldn't give him a good reason other than I just kind of wanted to know why he went into care. I wanted to know some more details. And he was an odd guy, but he was a talented guy. He had potential like you wouldn't believe, but he just never really did anything with his life. He chose to play the victim, which I challenge you guys not to. It's really tempting to say, I'm a foster kid, and poor me, and have pity on me. And I played that game for a minute too. It was really nice when people would say, yo mama jokes. And I could just say, I've never met her. Just to watch their faces. I challenge you to, you can have that card, and you can play that card, but don't let it define you. Stand on your own 2 feet if you can. You'll be much better for it. But if you can't, or you want help or need help, don't be embarrassed. At the end of the presentation, I'm gonna leave my phone number. If you ever feel at any time you don't know what to do, or just whatever it is, I challenge you to call me. Something, I'm gonna take you pretty deep here for a second. When I was locked in my room, I wanted to commit suicide at 12 or 13 years old, which, 12 or 13, what do you know? But I tried to talk to every adult that I knew that I could come in contact with, and I realized they couldn't help me. Society wasn't set up so they could help me. And I only want to share this, not for pity, but to let you know how desperate I was. Me being artistic, I would draw a picture of my hand, I'd trace my hand, and I'd fill it all in, and I'd slit the wrist. And I'd leave those pictures laying around. And that was my call for help. That was my cry for help. And I just kind of wanted to see if anybody would notice or would even care. Well, they noticed, had a talk to me, and it didn't change anything. My plan was still the same. So the whole time I was in my room, I had a door that led outside. At any given moment, I could walk out, and I never did. I never opened that door. That's torture to know that you can leave and run away and not do it. My plan is to, in the middle of the night or late, go to the gas station, get a couple bags of ice, ride my bike up there, and then ride to the nearest overpass. And basically I was going to soak my wrists, get them cold to where I wouldn't feel anything, and I would hang myself off the overpass. If that didn't kill me, hopefully bleeding would. If that didn't kill me, hopefully the fall would. If if that didn't kill me, maybe I'd get hit by a car. And the only reason I tell you this is because it's a sad place for a little boy to be. But I really wanted out of that situation, and I really wanted to get my sister out of that situation. So I wanted it to be the ugliest, most nasty thing you could think of. Why would this boy go to this length? Because I wanted to draw attention to my situation. I'm glad I didn't, by the way. I have a beautiful wife, a beautiful son. Just recently, a year ago, got another family member. He's fuzzy. He's all black. He drools. Really good at frisbee. My neighbor gave me a dog. He's a German Shepherd, all black. I'm not a dog person. I didn't grow up with dogs, so it's been challenging. But I challenge you at some point, later on in life, get you a dog. Don't do it first house you get. Trust me on this. I got the same advice and I didn't listen. So wait until you're established in life, then get a dog. Please forgive people. It's the only way to get through some of this stuff. Try to see things from their perspective, and it's not always easy. And it doesn't make sense now, but later in life, you can look at where they were coming from and see why they were abused. Maybe they were raised that way. Maybe who knows why people do what they do. But let it roll off your back. I know that's hard to. I got that same advice, and I thought, man, how am I gonna let this go? But let it go. Like the trauma leaves fingerprints on the victim. These don't fade with when the bruises do. By Dr. Helen Taliaferro. I know I said that before, but it's true. When you're in hard times, reach for substance, not substances. It's really easy. They sell them on every corner. You can always get cigarettes, you can always get beer, you can always do whatever it is you want to, and it'll be there for you. But it'll cause you all kinds of problems. I'd really like to salute you guys, staff, and the Royals, anybody in this program. I was told you guys have your head on your shoulders. When I walked in the room, I knew it. I could feel it, I could see it. You guys actually want to do something with your lives, and I'd like to salute you for that. The staff, it's not easy. I know because I'm married to one of them. But no, I don't hear names. And she's got to be really careful what she shares with me, but every once in a while I get a story or two, and I wouldn't want to do that job. This is me trying to become tough. You don't smile in the Army, by the way. Out of my whole platoon, I think I might have been the only guy to smile in my ID. That's my machine gun that I named Scoliosis. 27 pounds. Mind you, I'm only maybe 160 in this photo, so I would carry a 100-pound backpack pulling me back this way. My 27-pound machine gun and all the ammo pulling me this way. So, it's not easy carrying that sucker for 12 miles. We had an expression, I wasn't going to share this, it's embrace the suck. When things get hard, you just give it a hug and get used to it. I learned in the Army that road marches, that you knew the end, where you just knew where you were going, were easy. The ones you didn't know what the final destination or when it was going to end felt like all night. And I'm learning a lot of stuff just in the last couple of months that's given me the courage to come up here and do this. Dr. Jordan Peterson, if you guys have ever heard of him or not, he's a psychologist that's on YouTube, recently got famous. The guy's, in my book, he's my hero right now. He's helped me go through some stuff. I'm not where I want to be at 41 years old, but I still want to come and talk to you and challenge you to go where you want to go. where you decide, all of you decide where you go. No one else can do that for you. Don't let them try. They have advice for you, I'm sure. These workers do. They might see things in you that you don't even see for yourself, but I challenge you to use that resource. I didn't have that resource, and I tell you what, I would have killed for something like that. My foster parents kind of did that for me. When I got out of the Army, I didn't deploy with my group. So for a long time, I carried that as guilt. Like, what if I'd been there? Maybe I could have shot the bad guy before that guy, or maybe I would have seen that IED, or maybe, I would have myself for 15 years, and I don't want a veteran, but this bracelet has the names of all the guys that were killed after 9/11. Either way, this is the reunion that I go to. I just started going a couple years ago. It's been a good thing for me. That's a fire pit that I restacked just with what was there. And then that's the fire that I built. And I've got a caption, the fire whisperer. I can start a fire about 250 different ways. That's just therapeutic for me. It gives me confidence that I can go anywhere and I can provide. Something I've learned as a survivalist though, no matter what I've learned, no matter what weed I know I can eat, or tree, or whatever, I can't do anything to save my life. And I haven't met many people that know as much, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I've learned that ultimately God's got control, and I need to kind of let Him have it. It's not easy. It's really hard to give it to God, and I'm still struggling with that. This is my biological brother on the right. Love him to death. This is my biological dad on the left. His name is Steve Miller, like the band. Kind of ironic, but this is his family. Those are my nephews and my niece, and love that guy to death. He's working nights right now, so I stay up late, and I get to talk to him. So, I'm a therapist. I hope that we can write a book or do something like that, because he has a completely different story than I do. And it was another God's fingerprint, how we got together. He ended up being the officiant for our wedding. So there's my wedding photo, best day of my life, by far. There was a setup just like that at our wedding. But he really made my day there. It's my biological aunt and her daughter. She's a spiritual influence. God always put people in my life that I could talk to throughout all the abuse and everything. There will always be somebody there for you to talk to. Some of them probably not choice, but if they listen, they want what's best for you. Don't shun them, talk to them. They'll give you good advice. People can kill you. People can also save your life. We got together and had breakfast at my favorite restaurant. It was a pretty cool visit. Okay, this picture is really important. If you could all look at this one. This isn't an everyday thing that you see. Being my wedding day, my second or third placement is my second placement. Those are my foster parents to the left, my wife and I, my biological dad, my foster parents, Mary and David. They all didn't like each other, but they showed up. They showed up for my wife and I. And I love this photo because it's just, I'm the sticky glue in the middle that kind of holds everybody together. I'm
I'm not sure I would be that if I didn't go through what I went through. I spared you guys so many of the details of my life that, who knows, I might get to come back and share more. But like I said, I just want to salute you guys, and that's a pretty big deal because from what I understand, there's probably hundreds in the state of Missouri that have the potential to be in this program, and you guys are the smartest ones in the group. So that's a big deal. That's a huge big deal. Royals. Use your experiences to help others with good advice. Sometimes we go through things, and I believe God let me go through those things to shape and mold me, not to hurt me. Elvis Presley said, "Values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you leave them all over everything that you do." Learn what values are. I'm sure you guys have one. This is another important quote that when I heard it, it applied. Our fingerprints don't fade from the lives that we've touched, by Will Fitters. You can help somebody in the smallest way, and it can create a butterfly effect, and it can change the world. Look at what Jesus did with 12 people, 12 friends, 12 disciples. Thousands of years later, you can't kill it. It's my son and I, my wife. This day was a big day. It was the first time we'd ever been out in public with him when he had a hissy fit. And I tell you what, we were stressed to the max. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know why he was upset, but he was upset. There's a family photo. This is my wife's family. And then the one on the right was shortly after we met. I love this photo because I'm a big karaoke singer, or was. Karaoke with Christian Chest. All right, this is from our vacation. I said this photo would never turn out because you can't take a picture shooting into the sun. This is evidence I was wrong. It's okay to be wrong. Don't let it define you, your mistakes. I made a lot of them. Just try to make sure that they're small. Don't make the really big, serious ones. Try to get things in order. If you ever fall on hard times, call me. If you need anything, I'll try to connect you to the person that you need. Being pretty social, and I know a lot of folks. It says fingerprints to footprints. Walk on. This is the quote I came up with. It's not perfect, but fingerprints to hold on can also help you let go. Sometimes you need to learn to let go. Sometimes you learn to say no. Something I still struggle with. But if you would, grab a pen. That's my phone number. That's that number I've had since I got out of the Army in 2003. So that kind of shows you something about me. If you ever fall on hard times, get your phone first, then get a car. If I have something to share and I can't get a hold of you, how am I going to give it to you if I can't call you? So get your phone first. Once you have that phone, I can share blessings as well as your workers or whoever. They can help you out. So get that phone and keep it. Don't be swapping numbers. Keep the same phone number. Then get your car. You can always sleep in your car if you got to. I'm not condoning that, but if you had to, you got a mobile home. You can get to work. From there, then get your apartment, get your house, get your family. I'm not sure where I'm at with time. You guys have been really patient with me. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'd like to salute you guys, and I'd like to give you guys a round of applause.